Hello everyone, today is 4th of June. My name is Sahil and welcome to the newspaper analysis. Guys, first of all, let's have a look on today's GS folder. So, today we will be taking a quote from the James E. Faust. He says, "Honesty is more than not lying. It is truth telling, truth speaking, truth living, and truth loving." Now, guys, here the James E. Faust had explained the scope of honesty into the comprehensiveness where honesty has not been taken as a passive value, rather, it has been called as an entire outlook of a life that a person needs to carry. Now, guys, when we talk about the honesty has been characterized as one of the foundational values for the civil servants, and even the Nolan Committee of the 1994 into the UK had prescribed that honesty is one of the foundational value of the public life, and the second ARC had suggested that such kind of value needs to be the driving force for the civil servants. Guys, we can utilize all this particular thing into our GS paper number 4, ethics, integrity and aptitude, in topic number 7. So guys, that is all, and now let's take the newspaper analysis in detail. Now guys, first of all, today's video is not a face cam video because I am somewhere out and it is not possible to record it, but from tomorrow again the same kind of video will be initiated. And friends, yesterday there was some problem of echo into the video. It was because of some glitch into the processing of the video. I will take care that such kind of thing should not happen into the future. Now guys, the first article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper and it will be important for the GS paper number 2, developmental issues. Now guys, it talks about the Niti Aayog's SDG index that has been announced and the findings which have been taken here. So guys, first of all, taking up the basic information. So what has happened? There are the sustainable developmental goals. Now guys, the sustainable developmental goals were taken up in 2015 under the United Nations General Assembly, and they are basically to be reached by 2030. Now guys, before the sustainable developmental goals, there were the millennium development goals or the MDG that spanned from 2000 to 2015. Now guys, one of the fundamental reason between the millennium development goals and the sustainable developmental goals are two. See, the MDGs were not to be followed by the developed nations. They were basically an obligation onto the underdeveloped and developing countries. Then the second difference is that under the MDG there were the 8 goals. However, into the sustainable developmental goals there are the 17 global goals, and within these 17 goals there are 169 targets. So guys, the scope of the sustainable developmental goal is much more comprehensive, and other kind of sensitive issues such as conserving the life below the water, social justice and all such kind of things have also been taken into the sustainable developmental goals, where the MDGs were more oriented towards securing the basic dignities of the meaningful life. Now guys, into the India, the Niti Aayog since 2018 had started SDG India Index report. Now guys, into this particular report it is seen that how successful the states and union territories are to reach the targets of the sustainable developmental goals. Now guys, this SDG India Index report is developed by Niti Aayog in collaboration with the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Then there is the institution that is the Global Green Growth and the United Nations. Now guys, what has happened? Niti Aayog had come out with this year's SDG index report. Now guys, first of all, this particular edition of the SDG in India Index report, just the 13 goals have been tracked out of 17, because guys, for the 4 goals the complete data was not provided by the state and the union territories. Now guys, here what happens? Into this particular report, out of 100, score is given to the different state and different union territories with respect to the efforts that they have made towards reaching the sustainable developmental goals. Now guys, here if any of the state gets the total 100 out of 100, it means that they have achieved the 2030 SDGs target. However guys, if a state is between the range of 0 to 49, it is given the aspirant status, 50 to 64 is the performer status, and 65 to 99 is the front runner status, and on 100 achiever, that is they have met the goal. Now guys, into this particular capacity there are certain findings. See, there are certain states which are the top performer and they are the Himachal Pradesh and Kerala. Into the Union Territory, Chandigarh is the top performer. However, guys, the aspirants are the Uttar Pradesh and Dadar and Nagar Haveli. They are the ones which had performed relatively poor. Now, guys, the Himachal Pradesh had attained the success on two particular SDGs which pertain the dimension of clean water and sanitation, as well as in reducing inequalities and preserving the mountain ecosystem. They had performed also well. Now the Kerala had got the top rank due to its performance in providing the good health, particularly into the times of pandemic, as well as due to the instances of reducing hunger, achieving gender equality, and providing quality education. And then, guys, the finally Chandigarh's rank had been improved because of the good performance in providing the clean water, sanitation, affordable and clean energy, generating decent work, economic growth, providing quality education. Now, guys, this particular thing becomes important, particularly if you are giving the interview this year, and as well as, guys, this such particular kind of data can also be utilized into the questions. Now, guys, here you can see that different top states onto the different dimensions have also been given. So you can just have a look onto this particular diagram also. So, guys, that is all about this particular article. I hope you have understood it, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Guys, this article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper, and it will be important for our GS paper number 3 under the topic of environment and ecology. Now, this particular article talks about some of the new recommendations that have been given by a World Bank study in order to reduce the emission of the soot or the black carbon. Now we'll go into this particular thing also, but first of all, let's take some of the basic information. Now, guys, first of all, when we talk about the black carbon, many a times it is also known by the name of soot. Now it is a kind of a pollutant and is a pollutant of our biggest concern, because right now the black carbon is the second largest contributor to the warming of the planet. It is causing the global warming. Guys, on to the number one, there is the carbon dioxide, because in absolute quantity the carbon dioxide's emission are big. Now, guys, when we talk about the black carbon, it is the small, very tiny fragments of aerosols or the solid particles, and they are caused by the incomplete combustion during the burning of wood, fossil fuel, coal. Even in from the vehicles, black carbon is emitted, and India and China are the biggest emitters of the black carbon. Now, guys, the black carbon causes the global warming because of the two things. First of all, guys, when it is deposited onto the glacier, what does, because of its intense black color, it reduces the albedo. Now, guys, the albedo is the capability of a particular matter by which it reflects back the sunlight that is falling onto it. Now, as the albedo is reduced, more and more sunlight is absorbed, and because of that, the melting of the glacier increases. It becomes very much faster, and secondly, it also increases the temperature of nearby air. So because of these two particular reasons, the black carbon is a problematic thing. Now, guys, what has happened? A research has been carried by the World Bank into the region which covers the Himalayas, Karakoram, and the Hindu Kush mountain ranges, and it has been said that the glaciers here are increasing very much faster than the global average decline into the ice mass. So the rate of retreat or the melting of glacier is 0.3 meters per year towards the west and up to 1 meter per year in the east. And, guys, here the one of the biggest contribution is being played by the black carbon. Now, guys, when we talk about the black carbon emissions, the Ganges plain or the region around the northwest of India, here the emission is particularly very much high. And even the World Bank says that if only the present policies that are there to tame the black carbon will be implemented, just 23% reduction will be possible. So much more has to be done to reduce the black carbon. Now, guys, see, one of the positive thing with the black carbon is that black carbon stays temporarily into the environment, and it can relatively be washed off. So it has been said that we should concentrate on to removal of the black carbon or reduction of the black carbon, because it is a low-hanging fruit. Now, guys, it has been provided that right now the policies for the black carbon reduction includes, number one, enhancing the fuel efficiency or the standards for the vehicles. Guys, into this capacity, you also know that the BS6 standards are being brought out. Then, guys, the phasing out of diesel vehicles. Now, guys, here we have seen that government had came out with the vehicle scrappage policy, which brings a kind of a timeline of 15 years and 20 years for the different category of vehicles. Then guys, the electric vehicles are being promoted. For it, government had came out with the FAME scheme, and the state and the government such as of the Delhi government, they are even giving the financial subsidy for the electric vehicles. Then there is also the accelerated use of liquefied petroleum gas, and guys, into this capacity government had came out with the Ujjwala scheme. And onto the brick kiln technologies, basically the intervention has to be made. And guys, here also the fly ash bricks etc are being promoted. So guys, these are the present policies, but much more is to be done. So guys, here the World Bank provides that we need to reduce the black carbon which is being emitted from the cook stoves, diesel engines and open burning into the Himalaya region. And if this particular thing is done, then a huge reduction into the black carbon can be seen in this region. Now guys, according to the World Bank, industry, particularly the brick kiln industry and the residential burning of the solid fuel, is responsible for 45 to 66% of anthropogenic or man-made black carbon deposition. So into this particular thing, the district administrations, the state governments, the regional authorities need to collaborate with each other. Now however guys, at the same time, the vehicles or on road diesel, because of the on road diesel fuel, just 7 to 18% of black carbon is being emitted. And guys, the open burning is responsible for less than 3%. So most importantly, onto the front of the residential and industrial burning, we need to bring out some kind of urgent interventions. So that is all, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, here I have taken one article from the Economic and Political Weekly. And now this particular article talks about the idea of a professional democracy into the India. Now guys, this idea is very good and can be utilized into the GS paper number 2 as well as into the topics of essay. Now see, what do we understand by the democratic professionalism? First of all, even before that, a question comes that why we are talking even about the democratic professionalism today. See guys, there are many instances which has happened, and it shows the high-handedness by the government officials. Now guys, if we take one particular instance, then we can see that recently the Council of Minister of the Maharashtra, they recommended the name of 12 people which were to be nominated as the MLC, that is the members of the Legislative Council. Now guys, their names were sent to the governor, and governor was to give the approval. But guys, governor did not give his approval for a considerable time, and this particular matter then reached to the Bombay High Court, and then Bombay High Court asked the governor that the reasons should be revealed. Now it is the governor's basically call, but guys, actually the governor is also bound by certain standards that have been laid into the constitution. So such standards were not followed. After that guys, there are other things also which are happening. For example, the conduct of the parliament after into the times of pandemic is also questionable. For example, the question hour was scrapped, then into the winter session was merged with the budget session, and all such kind of thing is happening. And guys, now if we see, the most latest are the amendment into the pension rules for the civil servants. And then guys, there are also the tussle that happened between the central government and the West Bengal, and the chief secretary of the West Bengal was recalled by the DOPT. So such kind of things shows that now India further needs to introspect that whether we are able to follow the principles of professional democracy or not. Now guys, taking up the basic thing that what do we first of all understand by the professional democracy. So guys, there are certain characteristics into a professional democracy. Number one, it is a kind of a democracy where the structures of the governance or the democratic structures are being run due to in accordance with the constitutional framework. So one is that. Then second thing is that guys, the people who are running the affairs or the high or ranking officials, legislators, executives, they are working well according to the established protocols, procedures and frameworks of the established methods. So guys, number one is the institutional integrity needs to be there. Secondly, the personal professional integrity within the people also needs to be there who are running the administration. Then guys, thirdly is that the person who is running the decisions, they needs to be rationally efficient. Rational efficient means that within the minimum of the resources, they should able to be bring the maximum of the impact into the lives of the people. Moreover, guys, the efficiency is also very much important because it brings a kind of a sensitivity into the civil servants, that how they can move towards the moral integration of institutions. Now, moral integration means that the institution needs to be run onto the values of ethics and morality, and how they can enrich the deliberative content within these institutions. They should be given a kind of a scope where they can come out with the dissent, they can come out with their understandings. They should not simply be the kind of chattels of the government. And now, guys, after understanding the basic concept of professional democracy, can we see that right now the Indian democracy is being operated onto the principles of professionalism? And the answer here could not be very much clear. Now, guys, as we talk about the professional democracy, so this is the idea. Now, guys, on to academic terms, the professional democracy many a times has been criticized also. And because of such kind of criticisms only, it has been said that India did not deliberately went for opting the professional democracy since very start. See, it has been said that the concept of professional democracy is an elitist concept because it has been said that the people who will be running the professional democracy are supposed to be professionals into their conduct from the very start, and only the socially privileged and the people which have a status of historically arrived, they only had such kind of professionalism because they can afford the modern education, the western education, and all such kind of things. So it has been said that if the focus onto the professional democracy will be there, then, guys, people belonging to the underprivileged sections, subalterns, people belonging to the lower caste, poor people, they would not have participated into the democratic functioning. So therefore, as an arrangement, rather than fully opting the professional democracy, we went with a kind of a compromise, and we said that we actually need both, that is the entry of the subaltern or people from the lower sections, because it will be the initial condition for a functional democracy, and at the same time we also need a kind of a professionalism because it will be the essential condition for the robust democracy. So this particular path was taken up. Now, guys, it has been said that because of many of the instances, the professionalism or the professional democracy is entirely being tossed out, and this thing is not good for making India a robust democracy. So, guys, this is a very good and an insightful idea that has been given here. Please do remember it, and please do note it down into your notebooks. So that is all. Now we'll move to the next article. Now, guys, this article has been taken from the Mint as well as the Indian Express newspaper, and here we can see that the COVID vaccine policy in India has went through a fundamental shift. Now, guys, what has happened earlier, the India's vaccination policy was such that after a vaccine has been given, the emergency use authorization, then only the government goes into the kind of commercial agreements. The same thing happened with the Bharat Biotech's COVAX, as well as the Serum Institute's Covishield. But the departure has been made, and government had signed the pre-purchase order with the Biological E for the supply of Corbevax vaccine. Now, guys, this Corbevax is a kind of an underdevelopment vaccine. It did not got the emergency use authorization. However, still, the government had made an upfront payment to reserve 30 crore doses of this particular vaccine. Now, guys, this basically shows that now government had taken up the alarm bells very seriously, and the vaccination drive now might not be seeing the halts that has seen earlier. Now, guys, when we talk about this Corbevax vaccine, basically it works onto the recombinant protein platform. Now, guys, here what happens, this vaccine targets a particular protein, that is, into the case of SARS-CoV, the spike protein. Now, you might have seen the structure of the coronavirus. It has these structures, and now, guys, these structures are responsible for giving the entry to the virus into the cell, and there these viruses are replicated. Now, basically, this vaccine will be targeting this spike protein, and the immune system will be prepared. Now, guys, first of all, the vaccines which we already are using, they are based on to the principle of immunogenicity, and actually into these vaccines, a kind of a diluted form of virus is actually being exposed to the body. Now, guys, here, rather than the virus, just the cloned spike proteins which will be raised into the lab, they will be injected, and they will prepare the body to fight with the COVID-19. So, guys, this is the vaccine development that has happened. So, guys, just keep remember this particular information, because, guys, this will be only second vaccine that will be completely be made into the India after the Bharat Biotech's COVAX. So that is all. Now we'll move to the next article. Now friends, this article has been taken from the Business Standard newspaper and it can be utilized as an important example or as an important case study into the GS paper number 2, the social justice relating to the health delivery. Now guys, when we talk about the efficient health delivery, it is always a kind of an area where India lacks. And guys, many a times there are the primary healthcare centers, there are the community healthcare centers which lack the basic medications, and because of that many a time large number of people die because of the preventable and avoidable diseases. Now guys, why the vaccines and essential supplies are not there? Because of the logistic problems. Now such kind of thing can be solved by the delivery of such kind of essential items via the drones. And guys, into this thing, the Telangana has become the first state which had signed a kind of an agreement with a tech startup to supply the vaccines into the primary healthcare centers via the drones. And guys, this particular thing is in collaboration with the government of Telangana, Niti Aayog and the World Economic Forum. Now guys, see, the drones, they have a particular advantage. For example, the drones can deliver the vaccines up to distance of 70 kilometers and they can travel at 100 kilometer hours, and the logistical problems such as the road connectivity, the traffic and other such kind of things are also not there. Moreover guys, when we talk about the drones, they have been very high tech and they can carry the precision navigation. They can detect and avoid for the manned and unmanned aviation so that some kind of accidents and such things are not there. Moreover guys, the real time monitoring can also be made and they can also handle the extreme weather conditions. So basically these enhanced capabilities of drone makes the drone a kind of a viable option for supplying the regular essential medicines and supplies. Moreover guys, these drones can carry the medicine and such supplies into a temperature controlled boxes so that their efficacy is also not compromised. So guys, into this particular capacity, the example of Telangana is appreciable, and this is the integration of high tech technologies into the day-to-day processes so that the lives of the citizens can be made much more meaningful. So guys, that is here. Please do utilize it as a case study in GS2. And now we'll move to the next article. Now guys, this article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper and again it will be important for GS paper number 2 under the section of evaluation or assessment of government schemes and particularly the social justice topic of hunger. Now guys, first of all, let's take the basic information. Now see, we have seen that the COVID-19 pandemic started and because of that economic miseries were there onto the people. So therefore, into the March 2020, under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, government came out with the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana. Now under this particular scheme, it was provided that priority households which are there under the National Food Security Act, they will get the 5 kg per person food grains extra. Either they could be given a wheat or the rice, it depends on to the dietary requirement of that area. And then apart from it, 1 kg dal for the family will also be given. Now guys, these entitlements are extra than the ordinary entitlements which have been given under the National Food Security Act. Guys, National Food Security Act gives the right to food to people of India. It actually ensures that 66% population into the entire country, 75% population into the rural areas, 50% population into the urban areas will be covered. Ration cards have to be shown to avail the foods under the National Food Security Act. Now guys, under the National Food Security Act, Antyodaya Ann Yojana households which are poorest of the poor can avail 35 kg of food grain per family, whereas the other households under the NFSA, they can get the 5 kg food grain per person. Now guys, this particular arrangement started in 2020 and successively the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana has been extended. Now guys, as the second wave of COVID-19 had come, again the wave of lockdown etc. has been started. Into this particular capacity, the Supreme Court guys recently made an observation that the poor people, the migrant people who are not having the ration cards, they should also be provided the food. You should not compel them that you need to have the ration card under the NFSA. However guys, number one, here the central government had said that the onus lies completely onto the state government. We are not able to provide you the extra food to the people even without the ration cards. If you want, then you can give it out of your own capacity. Now guys, this is one particular problem which is happening. Now though the government is giving the food under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, but guys, it has been provided by the government, particularly by the food secretary, that 30% of the entitlement payments that were to be given under this particular scheme, they have not been given for the month of May, and now the June had started. Particularly the states such as the Madhya Pradesh, Goa, Odisha and Rajasthan, they had not even started the distribution of the May quota under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana until the June 1st. And this thing particularly shows that how onto the one hand there are the vulnerable population which are going hungry, and onto the other hand the government had not even started the food distribution. Now guys, this is one aspect. However, there is one more aspect related to the hunger. See, as I have told you that under National Food Security Act, ration cards are to be shown. So guys, there are a particular population which has been called as eligible beneficiaries. Now, under first of all the NFSA, the basis have been taken is the census 2011 data. And onto the basis of the census 2011, all the states have been given the quota of the ration cards which they can issue. Now guys, see here, right now we are into the 2021, and within these 10 years the population has increased so much. There are so many of the households who are poor, but they are not being counted. And guys, the states need more quota of the ration cards, but they cannot issue because the number of ration cards are restricted based on the 2011 census. So this is one problem. Second problem guys, even though all people are not covered, but still there are many states which had not given all the ration cards. There is a gap of 1.97 crore beneficiaries. That is, there are the states such as the Himachal Pradesh where 23% of the less ration cards are given, the Madhya Pradesh, the Gujarat, as well as many other states. So this is the gap, the beneficiary gap which is there. So guys, the question comes here is that whether the state is doing enough for the social justice or not. So these are some of the instances which points out that hunger management in India is more of a problem which has been created due to the gross mismanagement. So that is all. Now we'll move to the next article. Now guys, this particular article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper, and it talks about the USA's recent move with respect to announcing the 25% tariff rate onto the imports that are coming from some of the countries. So we'll see that what this entire reason is, why this particular thing happened and what are the implications. Now guys, this particular issue starts from the finance bill of 2020 and 2021. Now guys, what happened into the finance bill here, government introduced that a 2% digital service tax will be imposed onto the services that are being given by the non-resident e-commerce operators. So guys, basically this particular tax was applicable onto the revenue that was being generated. Now guys, because of this particular step, the United States, it turned a little bit infuriated. It says that under the section number 301 of the US Trade Act 1974, the USA has the power that they can investigate that whether anywhere the discriminatory tax regime against the USA is being followed, and if such kind of thing is there, they have the authority that they can take some kind of actions. And guys, under 301 section of the United States Trade Act, the investigation into this particular thing began in June 2020. The investigation got completed in 2021 January, and it was said by the United States Trade Representative that yes, this particular tax is discriminatory. So therefore guys, as a countermeasure, the United States announced that they will be imposing a kind of a 25% tariff rate onto the imports that are coming from 6 countries, that is the Austria, India, Italy, Spain and Turkey and UK. Now this particular thing was announced, and immediately this decision was rolled back, and it has been said that it was actually a strategic move that was made by the USA just to signal that even the USA is capable of imposing such kind of things if the ways are not meant by the countries such as India. And basically they want to gain a kind of a leverage onto the negotiation of this particular matter. So guys, this is the entire issue that has happened, and now we need to see that via the diplomatic channels, via the negotiations, how India will be resolving this particular matter in a way that we, number one, we don't face a loss of revenue, and number two, basically the kind of a cordial relations are also maintained. Now guys, when we talk about the digital service tax, guys, actually for the first time in 2016, the equalization levy was also introduced by the government, which was also became popularized by the Google tax. Here what happened, 6% tax on revenues earned by non-resident e-commerce industries was imposed, and it was actually imposed only onto the online advertising and business to business transactions. So the scope was a little bit limited there. Now the digital service tax has been carried as a kind of an extended arm into this direction only. So guys, this is all about this matter. I hope you have understood it, and now we'll move to the next article. Now friends, this article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper, and here we can see a recent directive that has been given by the Ministry of Finance. Now guys, here it has been said that the budget that is being spent for the MG Narega wages, it needs to be shown separately as how much wages were given to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe people. So it has been said that the basically budget benefits are needed to be split and differently needed to be shown. Now this particular matter was criticized by many of the NGOs. It was said that this particular arrangement will unnecessarily delay, and the complication will be there into the calculations and disbursal of the wages, and therefore the people will be facing the problems. Then it was also said that it might be a step towards the thinning out of MG Narega into the mean course of time. Only the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe districts, or only the people belonging to these castes, will be getting the benefit of the MG Narega. So therefore the criticism was there. Now guys, it has been clarified by the government that such a move is just to assess the budget benefits, whether the money which is being allocated by the government is reaching at the end of the day to the scheduled caste or scheduled tribe or not. So this is a clarification that has been given. So guys, that is all. There is nothing much more important into it, and now we'll move to the next article. Now guys, this article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper, and it is talking about the critical analysis of the Information Technology Rules 2020. This particular matter had now came to the limelight because of the WhatsApp that has challenged it into the Delhi High Court. Now guys, basically it is containing the points which we have already discussed onto the article that we took on to the 1st of June 2021. There comprehensively we have discussed that what entire matter is and why there are the problems. Guys, you can refer to the attachment on 1 June, and you can see this. So guys, that is all about the today's important newspaper articles. I hope that you have understood it. Thank you so much.